Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedom and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country. In the courtrooms of America, Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedom.
Marriage is part of the natural order. It's not something that is just a legal document, and certainly not up to the justices of the United States Supreme Court to redefine it. I am Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. Joining me is Shawn Akers, the vice president of Middle Eastern Affairs for Liberty Counsel. Shawn, the Supreme Court just decided, or they heard two different cases. They'll decide on later this year, probably by the end of June, on marriage. The Proposition 8 case coming out of California that says marriage is the union of one man and one woman. That was the state constitutional amendment case. And then the second case, the Federal Defense of Marriage Act, that says marriage is the union of one man and one woman for purposes of federal law and federal benefits, so that the word spouse in terms of IRS or Social Security refers to the normal understanding of a spouse in a marriage between a man and a woman. Both of those are before the United States Supreme Court. We don't know exactly which way the court's going to go, but I think we want to talk about the importance of marriage. I really don't think it's up to the whim of the justices of the Supreme Court to redefine that fundamental institution.
You know, Matt, this raises all kinds of fundamental questions, not just with marriage itself, but with the proper role of the federal government, the proper role of the state government, and the role that the nuclear family plays in successful societies. So we've really got a very complicated mix here, and being involved in these cases, especially in the one-on-one way that we are with Liberty Counsel, literally shows that the people still have an impact on policy. It's a very important and exciting time.
Well, in terms of the Proposition 8 case, it looks like the Supreme Court may go with a more narrow ruling, possibly even dismiss it on the issue of standing. If that's the case, it means that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals decision would ultimately be set aside. And the only thing left remaining would be the Northern District of California, the northern part of California, meaning the central and the southern part of California would not be affected, and certainly nothing else would be affected as well. If they went that way, what that means is there would be parts of California that would be under this ruling and parts of it that would not. Now, it may well be that the governor would try to enforce it in the other parts of the state, and that's where the litigation would happen. On the Federal Defense of Marriage Act case, there is some suggestion that there might be 5 justices willing to strike that down in terms of the definition of marriage, not the full faith and credit clause provision that says one state can have its own marriage and not be forced to recognize a sister state's same-sex marriage, but the definition of marriage. And if they did that, that could have a far-reaching implication.
Matt, help us understand, when we talk about the importance of becoming involved in presidential politics, and now we see the reflection of that you're talking about a Supreme Court that's made up of 9 individuals, and in their hands lie these truly important questions. What are the possible impacts of a ruling one way or the other in
well,
these two cases?
The possible impact is huge. If they were to say in Proposition 8 that you can't have a state marriage amendment, or even if they were to say in the Federal Defense of Marriage Act that the definition of marriage violates the Constitution and somehow elevate same-sex behavior or status to the same level of race, that would have a huge impact. It would put this issue of the homosexual agenda and the same-sex marriage agenda on a collision course with religious freedom. We've seen that, for example, in Massachusetts, where same-sex marriage came there, and the Catholic Conference stopped doing adoptions. The Catholic Charities have been doing adoptions for many years. They stopped because the law forced them to put children into same-sex households, and they just wouldn't do that. That violated their religious beliefs. We would have a significant impact across the board of unprecedented and of a magnitude I think that most people have no clue of the impact. But it would be a major disruption to our society. I think it would be the beginning of the end of America.
Yeah, that's a bold statement, Matt, but history, unfortunately, bears it out. These are brand new precedents for the United States. You know, you and I have talked about it many times that the founders themselves would roll over in their graves at this discussion. But other societies have had the same discussion about whether the nuclear family should be the root of society or whether it should be exchanged for something else. Namely, Greece and Rome both went through these questions and ideas. and by the appraisal of many, it brought down their entire society.
Yeah,
so
because they decayed
I don't think
morally.
you're far off.
No, I think they decayed morally from within, and those moral decay, beginning with the morality of the society, ultimately then spreads out to everything else. And that's what we saw happen with Greece and Rome. It was that moral decay, and it ultimately toppled the greatest nations in the world. And I think we would have the same thing in this country. I think it would ultimately bring about a lot of clash with religious freedom. I think it would be a moral decay. I think it's important to understand that the Supreme Court really has no business redefining the definition of marriage. You can't redefine marriage any more than you can redefine gravity. You may not like gravity, but you can't redefine it. It doesn't matter whether you get 5 or 9 justices to vote to redefine gravity. It's not going to change gravity. Marriage is what it is, and marriage is the union of a man and a woman. It is part of the natural order. It is part of natural law. It's part of revealed law as well. And there are consequences to redefining that fundamental institution. Without marriage, there is no procreation. You simply do not have procreation outside of male-female unions. You don't get it with 2 men. You don't get it with 2 women. Adoption and artificial insemination, you have to have the opposite sex to have that happen. Marriage is fundamental. Man-woman union is fundamental to procreation. It's also fundamental to raising children and providing the best environment for children as moms and dads make a difference in the lives of these young children.
You know, Matt, you're one of the nation's preeminent legal scholars, and I'll tell you, the thing that you're pointing out here goes back directly to it literally predates the Constitution and goes back to the founding ideas behind the Declaration of Independence. The founders and later writers like Frederic Bastiat all acknowledge something very fundamental about the law, and that's that we didn't create it. We derive authority as individuals from God. The way that Bastiat put it was very interesting. He said that God pours out authority to individuals, and those include the inalienable rights that our founders talked about in the Declaration of Independence, that those came directly from God. You didn't need a government to do those things, but it was the people coming together, forming government for the specific purpose of protecting those inalienable rights. And what you've pointed out is that what the founders referred to as the laws of nature and nature's God that gave birth to those rights is the birthplace of marriage. So we don't have a constitutional authority, and we don't have a political authority to change. Where does the Supreme Court derive the authority to come and change something that was written in the laws of nature and nature's God?
You know, the Declaration of Independence begins by, it talks about in the preamble, the laws of nature and of nature's God, and that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, that these laws of nature that the Creator put together are part of who we are. They are fundamental. Part of those laws of nature are the laws of gravity.
Right.
The laws of physics. They are inherent. They operate whether we like it or not. There's also laws that deal with morality, right and wrong.
Right.
And they operate whether we like it or not as well. Now, we might deceive ourselves to think that we can change those or disobey them, but there are consequences. For same-sex behavior, for example, there's consequences to that. And the Center for Disease Control, for example, has a lot of information with regards to the consequences of same-sex sexual behavior among men. It is consequently harmful.
Right.
You can't just simply ignore natural law or the natural order.
And on the flip side of that, we've got equally strong information by honest educators that will look into it that show that the two-parent family, that a mommy and a daddy, are the best way to educate a child who is prepared to bring on good society and to continue the human race.
Well, moms bring something different to the marriage
Absolutely.
relationship, the family relationship, than dads do. And in fact, if you ever watch the dynamic of moms and dads in terms of how they deal with their children, moms have a different way of dealing with their boys than dads have a different way.
We can all testify to
and
that.
girls the same way. I mean, the mom and dad deal with them, and they bring something unique to that marriage, to that family, that the other doesn't provide. They are complementary in terms of their relationship, in terms of what they bring to that young child's life. Children do best when they're raised with a mom and a dad. You can have a popularity poll. You can have justices say something to the contrary, but it doesn't change the fact that marriage is what marriage is. It's the union of a man and a woman. It is the fundamental, foundational platform of the family and of our society. Continue to pray for these cases. The Supreme Court will ultimately issue decisions sometime probably in June. Liberty Counsel filed briefs in both of those cases. Continue to pray for Liberty Counsel and also partner with this ministry with your prayers and your financial support. You can go to Liberty Counsel's website, lc.org. There you can make an online credit card contribution and also order our brand new book called Stolen Honor, Stolen Innocence by Dr. Judith Reisman. That's Stolen Honor, Stolen Innocence by Dr. Reisman.
You have been listening to Faith and Freedom with Liberty Counsel. We hope that we have motivated you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedom. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email updates. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.